You're listening to episode 310 of the Major Issues podcast, and on this episode, we celebrate the 30th anniversary of Batman Mask of the Phantasm with a recap and review. The Major Issues podcast starts right now. Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues podcast, brought to you each and every week by ComicBookClique.com. And as always, I'm never alone. This place is the gift that keeps on giving. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
And I am B. Roke, but still loving Batman. What's going on, Don?
I'm happy. I have company here. We're here to talk about Batman. Very, very momentous occasion. So momentous that you're not even alone. Other sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
What up, everybody? It's John Escudero, aka Yogi.
Yogi is here, and we're here to talk about a very important piece of Batman media celebrating its 30th anniversary. I'm assuming making everyone here feel incredibly old.
God, I don't even want to think about it.
Batman.
I own this on VHS.
Oh, there you go. we're here to talk about Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which was released in 1993 on Christmas Day.
Beautiful.
On Christmas Day, 1993. Yeah. You would think it would be beautiful. It turns out that when they first came out with this, they were so hyped about it, I guess, that they ended up switching it to a theatrical release on short notice. Which ended up having like a terrible marketing and promotional team or whatever tactics to try to get this thing out, and ends up actually becoming a bomb. It fails at the box office, and because of that, we ended up not getting an animated Batman film for close to 25 years until we get both Lego Batman and then the limited theatrical release of The Killing Joke, which should have bombed. That, if anything, should have done bad. It was the freaking Killing Joke. But yeah, so far removed from everything that we think of now with modern superhero media. You know, Batman the Animated Series was killing it, and this is coming from that universe. I guess, B-Roke, I'll start with you. You are older, so you have a bit of a different perspective than us. Can you remember the hype around this, if any? Can you remember your excitement around this, if any? This was one of the things that I think I had like on tape alongside like Sub-Zero, stuff like that. So I ended up, it was a home watch for me, but was there any excitement about actually going to the theater and seeing this?
Well, yeah, I grew up at a time when, or at least in the socioeconomic culture, that going to the movies was a big deal. And so, no, I had no idea that this was going to be in theaters from my recollection. Mm-hmm. But I remember there being commercials, and I can see, like how you were saying, that the marketing was very poor. So I remember seeing commercials for this going, wait a minute, is that an episode? Or is this going to actually be in theaters? Is this real? Is this a joke? But I didn't pay it any mind, because even if I knew it was a movie, there was no way I was going to convince my parents, hey, let's spend that hard-earned dollars. And instead of going to see a grown-up movie because grown-up money is being spent on this, take me to see Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So there was, for me, the idea of going to the movies to see this was impossible, but I do remember seeing commercials for it. I mean, the Batman animated series at the time was the hype. So there was, I remember bragging about the idea that Batman, the animated series, was on prime time for a little while. There was a few weeks where it was like, oh, on Sunday after The Simpsons, Batman, the animated series. And I remember being like, telling my family, like, leave it on Channel 5. Like, don't think because The Simpsons is over that the cartoon afterwards is terrible. It's Batman. Give it a shot. And so that's how good the show was. So the Mask of the Phantasm to me deserved that level of respect and attention. But like I said, it bombed. They released it on Christmas Day. They didn't really market it well. But once it came to VHS, that was the easy buy. And like I said, I still own it to this day on VHS as well as DVD. I need to get the Blu-ray. And it's an amazing animated movie. It still holds up to this very day. I just watched it this past weekend again for this occasion with my son, who, even though he was kind of looking at it like, well, this animation's hokey, it's not modern. At the end of it, he was like, this was really, really good. I say, you're damn right it was.
No, definitely. Yogi, you're a tremendous Batman fan. You even went on the record of saying that you would put almost any piece of Batman media up against this film. Can you remember first?
Not almost. I
didn't want to sound hyperbolic.
No, I'll be hyperbolic because I was saying it earlier in a bit. I typed a little thing up. I even downloaded Letterboxd. I was like, I'll put this on Letterboxd because I feel that way so strongly. I watch Mask of the Phantasm and I always go into it remembering how I feel and what I've said publicly. And I watch it and I start it and I'm like, all right, is it still gonna be as good as I said? Like, is it really that good? Like, even I don't believe what the fuck I said about this movie sometimes. And I sit there and I watch this movie, and by the end of it, I'm like, yes, it is. It absolutely is perfect. Like, this movie has everything you love about Batman. Everything you love about Batman is in this movie. They give you he even becomes the enemy of the police at one point. They give you every fucking thing. It's superb. I love this film with all my heart. I put it against not only any Batman, I think I put it against most live action superhero films. This is one of the greatest superhero films there is. I mean that.
I was also a bit curious about how I remember liking it, and it came from a place of like nostalgia in my mind. I'm like, I like that, and I like that universe. I'd watch anything from there. And so when I watched it over this weekend, I was really surprised at how adult maybe some of the stuff was, how deep some of the pathos was for some of this stuff. Ironically, I read somewhere that one of the things that they were considering for this film as a premise was Batman being put on trial to see whether or not he's actually, the classic question, right? Does he cause more harm than good, et cetera, and so forth. And the reason why this film wasn't that was because they thought the concept was too sophisticated for moviegoers. So they ended up making it an episode of the animated series Trial, where Joker is, the judge.
Which is a fantastic episode.
Great episode, but it just goes to show you how much rich stories they were willing to tell with this character. And I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm downplaying, but this is a cartoon. For the most part, they could have skidded without doing anything of note. Like, they could have went right past.
Not even just that. It's a cartoon. It is spun off of an already successful children's cartoon, and it's the 90s where these cartoons aren't usually made. Like, they're not pushing that heavy to try to scare this censors away or scare the censors into chopping your shit up.
No, I think the creators who created the style, Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, they wanted, like, they're early on, they're like, we want guns in this, we want them. They're like, you can't do any of this. What are you talking about? And they just put it in there, like their little demo.
We'll see what happens.
Reel. Yeah, they didn't put in the little demo reel to see, and people loved it. And it was really cool to come back into this universe, and it's fairly brief. But it's dense in material. Am I making any sense? Be real.
No, honestly, definitely. Because it's so dense in my memory, because I used to watch this thing all the time. It got to the point where I'm pretty sure my VHS copy was starting to just wear out. Yeah. And so it's been a couple of years since I watched it. So when I went to pull it up this time, I was like, wait, 117 minutes? Not 117, 78 minutes. I apologize. 78 minutes. I'm like, In my mind, this thing was like 2 hours long. I was
Right.
like, wow, that's how, like you said, how dense this material was, because in that short amount of time, which is basically what the length of three Batman the Animated Series episodes,
Yeah.
they put this dense of a story. The density of the story matches that of these 2.5 hour Matthew Reeves and Christopher Nolan Batman movies,
Right.
and those things go forever. This is barely 90 minutes, not even 90 minutes, and it has that quality of a story to it, that there's so many layers to this, that even in this rewatch, I was sitting there going, wow, like I never noticed this, I never noticed this, I never
Oh
noticed
yeah.
all these little details that just gives you so much. And to me, if you make this nowadays, they put all that extra detail into it. The animation would be that much better. The story would have those lines. They'd be willing to show some death and actual
Right.
bloodshed, because in rewatching it, as deep as it is, and some of the stuff that they push the envelope with compared to the episodes, I'm just like, oh man, but had we gotten to actually see
One step further.
it just a little bit, just a little bit
that
further.
I don't know if I would want that, because they got to do that with Justice League recently, and it was like lackluster a little bit. They did they brought Bruce Tim. Actually, they did do it with Batman. They did it that movie Batman and Harley Quinn. It's
Oh
Batman
yeah, I never
TAS,
got to
but
see
like
it.
for adults. And they have
I
this
never
scene
got to
where
see that.
Harley she
Yeah.
ties up. It's a viral scene now. I'm sure you've seen this scene out of context where she
Oh,
ties
is it the
up
one where she
Dick
ties up
Grayson.
Nightwing? She
Yeah,
ties up
yeah.
Nightwing. Yeah,
And she
Okay,
bends
I've seen
over
that.
and he's like got the boner now, and it's a whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Like that's what you get today. And I don't know
The
if I
Bat
want
Pole.
that. I don't
No,
know if I
I
want,
agree. I agree.
you
I
know.
agree. I don't want that. But
I
Yeah.
think
there
oh, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But just one last thought about that is I think being forced into that box made them more creative.
I can see that. Sometimes, as they say, right, less is more. Less is more,
Yeah.
right? So
They were definitely efficient, like you said. Again, with everything against them, between censors and what they can and can't get away with just in animation in general. Like they had their backs
There
against
are
the wall and they fought well.
there's two Batman sex scenes in this movie. Two. Count
Oh
them.
yeah, yeah. And also, like, obviously, and this praise goes from the animated series all the way through. But the voice acting on this is just good. The voice acting on this show, or this universe, is just so good. It feels like natural people talking. And obviously, you eventually have the regular kind of crazy, wacky voiceover voices, but they fit depending on the person that's portraying that. And when it got to like the mafia guys and they're all like, hey, oh, wait. I'm like, there's a part of me that's nostalgic for like one-dimensional mob guys and fedoras and Tommy guns. Like that, I think of that when I think of this universe, like blimps and all that other kind of stuff there. It definitely has a look. It definitely has a voice. And I went in to look to see, because I also liked the voice actress for Andrea Beaumont.
Dana Delaney. Dana.
It's weird for me. Always when the movie starts, I always have to get over the Lois Lane thing. Like I have to throw that out.
I didn't know that
because it's so Lois.
I had
it
no
just
idea.
Sounds just like fucking Lois. Like it
So now
sounds
you can hear
exactly like Lois. I can never unhear it, but the movie's so good that eventually that fades away and I don't really care anymore. But
Yeah,
I can always hear the Lois as soon as the movie starts, and it's sharp. And I think I almost forget always because it always
right.
shocks me how Lois it is.
It must have been really traumatic when those Snyder leaks came out that he was trying to have Batman and Lois.
That actually is that. Again, another situation where we force somebody in a box and look at the better thing we got.
Look what happens.
Maybe
Look what
we
happens.
don't push forward and enjoy it as it is.
Let's get fully into this so we can gush about this properly. Batman Mask of the Phantasm, also known as Batman the Animated Movie Mask of the Phantasm. I've never heard it called that before.
Yeah.
That's the Canadian title.
Yeah, right. Is the 1993 American animated romantic superhero film
Wow.
featuring the DC Comics character Batman. This is how it's described on Wikipedia. It was directed by Eric Radomski and Bruce Timm and written by Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, Martin Pasco, and Michael Reeves. The film is based on Batman the Animated Series and is the first original theatrical film produced by Warner Brothers Animation before eventually establishing the additional Warner Brothers Feature Animation division for theatrical productions moving forward. So this started a whole business, the cartoon business over there for Warner Brothers. But yeah, let's get right into it. Our film starts off with a look through Gotham City at night, and not just any Gotham City, but the Art Deco Gothic designs as featured in Batman the Animated Series.
That score.
So that's another thing. We hear a choir give a kind of chilly rendition of the song this is the song that eventually will become the New Adventures of Batman song, the theme. Where do you guys sit? Batman March from the beginning or this more, I guess,
I don't know if I
one?
prefer one. I think I really like how this sounds because it is a theatrical release. It feels like we're on another level now. Like they got ladies singing it.
Yeah.
You know?
I was like, does this have words? What are they saying?
Yeah, right?
Well, first off, give credit to Shirley Walker and the
100%.
production team, because what they did here was like you said, this quickly establishes, and from what I know of this, they fought for this opening because they wanted it to be like, look, this isn't an episode of the animated series. This is a movie. So what better way to introduce a movie when you, like you just said, we're describing it. You hear this and immediately you go, okay. I'm not watching an episode of the animated series. I'm watching film, and it's operatic. But it turns out from what my research is, the person singing is singing some of the names of the production team, and just stretching it all out. Right. But it sounds so good. It sounds so good because I remember as a kid, the first time I popped this thing in and it just went off in the house, I was like, whoa, because I was totally expecting the classic, that classic opening. Whereas now we get this opera and it's just like, oh, wow, we're watching something significant. And that computer animated tour through Gotham City in that Art Deco style, you're okay. Now we're going into something a little deeper. Even my son, when I was watching it with him just this past weekend, I could see even he looked over at me like, what's going on? And I'm like, exactly. You're about to see something very different. Open your eyes, perk your ears, be quiet, enjoy.
I thought what was interesting is that they did implement like that early 3D animation stuff. I remember them kind of testing this out with Spider-Man the Animated Series as well, on certain shots, like with him web slinging and stuff. The thing that makes me laugh is for some reason I just believe that shot cost them like $200 million at the time. It's like we need 10 seconds.
It's the elephant from the Family Guy Star Wars opening crawl that just cost $50,000.
Yep, 100%. Like, come on, back in the day. So we were talking about the Art Deco style of this. Famously, this show coined the phrase "dark deco" to talk about the production of how they created the animation for this kind of stuff. It turns out both guys, Bruce and Eric, knew that Batman was a dark character, so they knew that the show had to be dark. So backgrounds would be painted in all black, and then everything else would be put on top of it. And anything that was already black was left, on the paper unpainted. Turns out Warner Brothers once told Bruce Timm that the show was so dark that he was about to reach the legal limit of how dark his show could be.
Wow.
That is incredible.
They busted out the legal grayscale on.
Yeah,
Hey, look at this.
Say,
see this?
Hey,
you see this?
You're on the line.
Very
buddy.
close to the bottom. I don't know how we got here, but we are here.
You're right. You're right on the line, buddy. So I just think that's great. I love that Batman's wearing gray and blue, right?
Yes, he is undoubtedly in this 4K, and I thought that too. I'm glad you brought that up because I thought, was he always wearing blue? Because
it's the blue accents in the light, so I'm assuming that it's black. As
I was pleasantly surprised to find that they had the 4K version streaming on HBO Max.
Ooh.
So I noticed a lot of stuff. Well, I don't like the fake grain that they put because I think when you upscale something too far, in
Yeah.
order to preserve the original look, you have to put like a fake grain and like a cinema
A
grain on
filter,
it.
a
Yeah,
filter,
and
this
I
is
didn't
old
like
footage
that.
filter.
I didn't like that at all. But there were some scenes where it was clearly the gray and blue outfit, and they even give Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams a shout out in the movie. So it's like,
I
that's very
did not
cool.
catch that.
You did it? It was
No, I was probably taking notes or something.
Bruce was in the back computer, and it's some address, O'Neill something and Adams something or other.
You're right.
And,
no, they were like the banks or something that they were.
Yeah, exactly. The shell companies. That's what they were.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yep. Wow. Oof.
Yeah.
That was quick. That was quick.
70 minutes. People, 70 minutes. They got all this in there.
The pacing. This is like a master class in pacing a film. Because like you said, it feels like there's so much, but it's 117 minutes with 5 minutes of credits. Because they paid and licensed a song that they had to play in full in the back.
Oh my God, the one at the end, the song, the random
it's song, so 90s, such a 90s R&B random song.
Yes, but wait, I got some fun stuff about that. Check this out.
Go ahead.
So same thing, because I was just talking about this, where growing up as a kid, no one watched the credits. The Marvel universe basically created the idea of watching credits nowadays. You know. Right. But here, just I had it playing, and my son and I were just, doing our little post-game discussion, and I'm listening to the song, going, "Wow, like you said, this is so '90s." And I'm sitting here going, "I wonder who sings this song." Mm-hmm. Tia Carrere sings that post-credit songs.
Is that not a voice actress?
She's an actual actress. Remember Wayne's World? Remember the girlfriend in Wayne's World?
Oh my God, she sings the song.
That's hilarious. I'm sorry. That is funny as hell.
How the hell they pull her for this?
They could have paid very much for this song.
I just remember every movie in the 90s ended with this power ballad. They do it in Men in Tights. Like Men in Tights ends and they have an actual. It's like I'm like, what is going on here? So back at the Mask of the Phantasm, we head over to the Shady Lady Casino, where some mobsters are getting ready to launder some counterfeit bills through their gambling establishment. As they discuss business, the Batman arrives and begins to take them down. He takes down all the goons, but the big boss in charge, Chucky Soul, manages to escape to the parking lot. Before he can get into his vehicle, a dark figure clouded in mist appears and claims that the angel of death awaits Mr. Soul. The figure, who we will refer to as the Phantasm, gets distracted long enough for Chucky to get in his car and to get away. But in his desperate attempt to run over the Phantasm, he accidentally smashes through the parking lot window and crashes into a nearby building, dying on impact. I didn't know if they were gonna say he died. I thought it was just a fun ride. I was like, is he dead? He's like big dead. He tried to do the Fast and the Furious car jump thing, and it did not work like how it does in the movies. Don't attempt it. Batman gets to the scene late, and onlookers see him and deduce that he must be responsible for Chuck's death. Batman sees the Phantasm but can't apprehend them in time. I just wanted to note that the Phantasm was designed with the Ghost of Christmas Past in mind.
Oh, so that was a real shout out then that they did in the movie. Okay. I did want to ask, I guess, two questions. Well, sure. That I guess I never noticed this before, but did they ever call it the Phantasm?
No. So I write it in this portion of my notes, waiting for the part where they call it the Phantasm, but it never comes. So no, I don't think they
asked Andrea, and she's like, "No, I'm the Ghost of Christmas Past. Didn't you fucking get it? Or the Christmas future? What are you talking about?"
Shazam would then go on to continue the tradition of never calling the character by the name that everyone knows.
Right. What was your other question?
B never cleared himself from this murder. Wait a minute. There's no evidence that he didn't do this.
Yeah, wow.
Flew up downtown chasing this man. He didn't.
Yeah, you're right.
He was just free. He was freaking scot-free at the end.
I was thinking to myself, because I love Batman Returns, which is another Christmassy Batman film. And in that, it's a very similar thing. They throw the girl off the top. People look up. They see Batman. They're like, "Oh shit, Batman did it!" It's fucking Batman.
Never clear to that. Never clear to that.
Open and shut case. It's Batman. So yeah, I like that. I like that they brought all that back. We got a real piece of crap in Arthur Reeves, who's already talking. Anyone who's calling Batman a public menace, I'm already like, come on.
Right,
on, bro.
Right, like, oh man, nope. You don't know what you're talking about here, man.
Hey, oh wait, come on. He's a
exactly.
Hart Bachner is yeah, that's his name. The guy who plays Arthur Reeves, Bachner.
I don't know if I know this guy.
It says he was in Carrie, Criminal Minds, stuff like that. He did 10 episodes of The Starter Wife, which sounds like an interesting series. I don't know what it means, but yeah.
The first wife, you know.
So he tells the media that Batman is a public menace who shouldn't be above the law. Commissioner Gordon, the homie, is like, yo, what are you talking about, bro? You're messing all this up for everybody. And Bruce Wayne watches the press conference from the Batcave. Elsewhere, a mysterious woman calls Arthur Reeves and says that she's excited to see him after 10 years. Reeves promises with his new political pull that he'll be able to, quote unquote, sort the family finances. Later that night, and the girl's like rubbing a Time magazine with Bruce Wayne on the cover. As this is going on. And
I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah, he's like, you're not
at all.
Seeing your old friends, right? She's like, no. Puts the fucking Time magazine back down. Later that night, Arthur attends a party at Wayne Manor. I looked fervently to find out what this was, because there's always a gala, right? It's always a gala, a party. It's just a party. There's no description of what this is for. Bruce Wayne's just throwing another shindig and surrounded
I
by
got money. I got money. So come on through.
Money and women. And what's up with that one girl's eyes? Did anyone catch that one? There's one.
Oh yeah, what was that about? She's a demon.
She had all black eyes. But yeah, he's surrounded by women. They do the whole Jack Sparrow thing where one of them comes up and, basically gives him 1-4 for being so out and about, a playboy out there. She throws a drink on him.
I thought it was strange they let that girl have such a similar design to Andrea, because that is kind of confusing for children. You just kind of assume that's her if you're a child.
He's also got to be
blue-eyed redhead women are not very common.
Honestly, I for me, I didn't bother me at all. I didn't even notice it.
I think the idea is that this is his type. He has banged other Andreas, but it just doesn't work because it's not the real one.
It's not the real one.
It's not my Andrea.
It's not his gene,
Oh no.
Oh no.
He's the nicest billionaire ever. Only Bruce can get a drink thrown at him at his party in his manor and just be like, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, that's all right.
Let it rock.
I also thought it was interesting that they kind of basically established that he is actually banging these women. And it is because the animated series doesn't get too much into Playboy Bruce Wayne. They I don't even remember it referenced, but they pretty clearly established that here, like Bruce Wayne fucks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple random episodes where you see him mention other women, or like the news will mention him as being a playboy. But yeah, like seeing him at this party with, one woman on each arm, and then the third woman coming in being like, "Oh, you player, and you diss me." And
because you go. Oh, go ahead, brother.
No, I was just gonna say the pacing of this is in the first 10 minutes we're witness to murder.
Yeah, yeah.
Which in the animated series, you never saw anybody die. Even when a henchman seemingly died, you would see them like laying down and kind of waking up or groaning something. And this is like, wait a minute, like because kind of like just what George said a second ago. You thought, okay, he drove the car off, and he's fine. Like his head hit the steering wheel. He's fine. Like, no, this dude's dead. Okay. They just quickly say he's dead. Like, oh my god! Like in the first couple minutes, this is dead, and now we're being witness to Bruce Wayne is getting his groove on a regular basis. Like, okay,
Yeah.
this is not the Saturday morning Batman show.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You go either one or two ways about it, and it's usually you go, oh, the one that got away, so he never indulged again. He's Batman, so he closes himself off. No, not this one. He's not. Maybe he's not falling in love again, but he's having his fun out there. I got it. It's for appearances, Alfred. I swear it is. Now bring me the lotion.
That's right. Send her a fruit basket.
Yes. So beautiful women. After one throws a drink at him, Arthur Reeves gives him crap about his luck with women. According to Arthur, the only woman Bruce ever considered being serious with was a woman named Andrea Beaumont. This seems to trigger Bruce, who goes over to a portrait of his family to think about it. That was like the most 90s thing ever, right? Like, he got triggered and he just walked into the next room to look at his parents.
Told him to shove the napkin up his ass. Why would you say
Not just that, but how quickly this establishes this freaking pencil pusher as just a dick.
Yeah,
because we saw in the previous scene, he knows who she is. He's still friends with her, and now he's in Bruce. Hey, what's that girl's name?
Pretending not to know it.
Yeah, Andrea Beaumont. Is that making your heart break? Oh man, because he's hating on Bruce because he knows Bruce has a relationship with her or had a relationship with her. You know what I mean? So it's just
he knows she's coming into town.
Yep.
Like, and he doesn't bring it up. He's a piece.
He just wants to just stab him with it. Like, oh, you freaking jerk.
I was thinking about this, and I was like, Batman media's, there's been so much of it, and so many different styles, so many different ways of telling a story. Obviously, this plays around with time a lot. It kind of reminds me of Batman Begins in the sense that we're following, present day Bruce Wayne, but we're also going back at choice moments to drop us just the right amount of knowledge about the past to continue the story until the bomb gets dropped, where all the pieces connect and all the puzzle pieces come together. It's a cool way to tell the story.
I did a little research as we were doing our intros. And as it turns out, the movie is directly inspired by Citizen Kane, and that's where this storytelling technique comes from. The same exact storytelling technique that you were describing.
I've never heard of this movie. What movie is this? Citizen what?
So
Dan is somewhere just flipping a table.
Glenn Jacobs plays this guy named Kane, right? And he's going for his citizenship.
Got it.
So he's from hell technically, so he doesn't have an ID here, and he's trying to do his best to go for his citizenship. It's
this is the one with the burning funeral home. That's right. I love this one.
Oh yes. It turns out Andrea and Bruce met at a cemetery. Nothing weird about that at all. Andrea was there seeing her mother while Bruce was visiting his parents. They introduced themselves and they flirt a little, but there's no time for romance, as tonight is Bruce Wayne's first time fighting crime.
I actually do like that they met in a cemetery because it would be Bruce Wayne's perfect woman is another weirdo who's obsessed with the death of their parents.
What are you doing? You're here at 6 o'clock in the morning too, talking to your parents?
He said, hold on. I'm in love.
Yeah. They say don't fight it, right? You go to the places that you would go to normally, and love will come. So there
it is.
He did it right. So he makes a makeshift outfit that won't allow him to be identified, and he successfully manages to prevent a robbery of an armored car. Even though he is successful, Bruce seems disappointed, as villains don't seem to fear him, something he thinks is necessary to discourage criminal activity, I guess.
I ain't got no respect in these streets, Alfred. I don't know what it is.
I need pointy ears and a cape. Stat.
Right. Aren't you scared of bats, Alfred? I mean, I guess. I guess if there was a 6 foot tall one coming at
I imagine that, like, I had to tell myself that the fucking the animation style simplifies something scary that we're just not seeing. Like, that's how I believe it must be horrifying. It has to be. It just has to be.
Yeah. But also, like, he succeeded. He could have just been like, that we did good tonight, Alfred. But he's like, no, they're not scared of me. They need to be scared. Because the whole thing is
Well, no, I mean,
fear.
you're right. You're right about that, but it just goes to show the psyche of Bruce Wayne. Like, nah, man, it's got to be perfect. Like nothing should have gone wrong. But that whole scene was so beautifully drawn, so beautifully choreographed, even. And I love the fact Zack Snyder, you could have learned from this. Even again, this is all so many layers, so quickly done. They managed to squeeze in him saving somebody. The tied up security guard, he grabs and gets him out of danger when the thugs are shooting the shotgun around. I'm like, they could have just had this be an action sequence where there was no stakes, but they quickly said, have him save somebody real quick. Who? Or the tied up security guard. He literally just grabs him and gets him out of the way of danger, puts him behind something. Like, good, he's doing something not just badass, but heroic. He's saving somebody, and he's still catching the bad guys. It's so great the way it's done, and it was fun to see the evolution of his gadgets, right? Because you see he has like these ninja stars that aren't quite batarangs, you know. So you see how, even because at this point he's gone away. This is the Bruce Wayne who's finally returned to Gotham City after training with Zatanna's dad and under God knows who else,
Henry Ducard,
right? All these people with the ninja, what was the ninja's name in the series? I forget his name.
I can't remember his name.
But look it up. Anyway, so he's training with all these people. He comes back, and even though that the first night is quite successful, he still looks at it and goes, nah, it could have been better. And that plays to that character of why this guy eventually, as most people like to say, which I will always disagree with, he can beat Superman. But that's for another day. That's for another day.
I will say that this leads to, hands down, my favorite scene in this entire film. Well, one of my favorite scenes in this entire film. Because the next day, Bruce Wayne is just on his lawn practicing jiu-jitsu in the open, full gi. I believe he had a headband.
No, that was from his head injury from the night before. That's what it was. Bandage.
Yeah. Nothing crazy about that at all. A bandaged millionaire at the time, is on his lawn doing jiu-jitsu in the open. A woman shows up. They talk about hand-to-hand combat. She flips him. They giggle about it. He tosses her down, pins her down to the ground, and they just start making out. And then Alfred comes out and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, I was gone 5 minutes.
I mean,
and I want to believe that they just continued. I want to just believe that
session. They absolutely did. With that, because when he comes back to her, he's in between her legs. Like they come back to Bruce, he's between her legs now, and he wasn't when he flipped her. So
sorry about that. It's been a long time.
But those are also weirdos who met at the cemetery. So they absolutely would be like, "Oh, he flipped me. That was it. It's a blood, Bruce."
I just love the no apologies. Like, screw this. We're just gonna do this right here, right now. Alfred, you bring us our lemonade later. We'll need it.
That's what I mean by okay. So this scene right here is exactly what I mean by being put in a box will make you more creative, because the Alfred walks in on Bruce having sex gag actually is a lot better than just having 2 minutes of Bruce making out with Andrea and slowly stripping the shirt, and now she's got a bra on, and we get a whiff of sexuality.
Silhouettes. We get silhouettes.
But wait, you're telling it works so well in the Killing Joke when he hooks up with Barbara Gordon. Did it?
My brain. Barbara, no. Oh boy. But yeah, it really good shows you how much, because you get, as an adult, I get it. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally get this. We go back to present day, and Bruce goes back to the party. Another criminal, Buzz Bronski, goes to visit the grave of Chucky Soul, only to be confronted by the Phantasm, who doesn't seem to be affected by any damage. Buzz does his best to escape, but falls into a shallow grave. The Phantasm then murders him by dropping a huge angel monument on top of him. I'm like, they're going to do the buried alive gag. No. Here's a stone angel. crashing down from like at least 6 feet above you, because you can't get out of this hole, and you got to think his reach, so 7-8 feet. Yeah, here's a stone angel, and then just like last time, people look and kind of get a cape, and they're like, "It's Batman! He's killing everybody." What's going on here? So yeah, he is out there. Reeves demands that Gordon and the GCPD take down Batman for all these murders, but Gordon is adamant that Batman had nothing to do with it. Arthur makes Bullock put up the bat signal, but Batman is busy doing forensics at the cemetery. While he's there, he visits the grave of his parents, when in town. He goes and visits the grave of his parents, but is shocked to hear Andrea's voice talking to her mom just like 10 years ago. Andrea catches Batman leaving and tries to get his attention, but he's gone without a trace. As an adult, when she turns and looks and goes, "Bruce?" I had chills. I was like, damn, somebody figured it out.
I thought it was funny. At first, I asked myself like, why would he go to the grave dressed as Batman? But I realized it's Bruce Wayne, so he can't even fight the urge. I don't think he's capable of ever walking by the grave of his parents.
Yeah.
No, it's such a key thing even in this story, because it was previously established when he meets Andrea how he made this vow, right? And we all know the Batman lore. He made this vow. He's seen his parents die before him. And even in memes, you see it nowadays that like instead of Bruce Wayne being smart and just getting therapy, he just decided to take vengeance on all crime for what happened to his parents. Like, this is a broken person. This is a crazy person, right? This is a person who then, after seeing his parents murdered, decided to go on a crusade to learn to be the most efficient and proficient martial artist fighting detective, to then come home and go, all right, that's still not good enough. I need to dress up as a bat because it scared me. And now I'm going to fight all this crime until the ghost of my parents say, you've done enough.
You're good.
Not to jump too far ahead, but like when you mentioned the vow and the way that they handled it in this movie, that's probably one of my favorite things. In any Batman story at all, like in any Batman comic movie, and I've read and watched so much. And this scene, that particular scene of Bruce begging his parents to let him, maybe I can just be happy, like, please. And then the way that the movie kind of established that he's actually not like, he didn't choose, because the movie kind of sets it up to feel like maybe he's going to choose Batman over Andrea, and he fucking doesn't.
He gets the choice robbed from him. Yeah.
He gets it taken from him. So now you have the question, like, where at first you kind of assume, like, man, Bruce is a fucking maniac. He's going to end up choosing Batman over, and it seems like it, but then he makes the right choice and he gets it taken from him anyway. So now you're left the question, like, is fate going to push him no matter what? So, like,
the ghost of his parents, man. The ghost of his parents.
It's like, I love that, though.
We didn't get to live out our lives. Neither do you.
It does take him a little more seriously than, like, crazy guy in a bat suit, right? Because you basically established that no, he's actually intelligent enough to know that this is not healthy. He doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to be in Gotham chasing people around at night. He doesn't have like a fetish for beating people up and taking vengeance. Like, he wants to be happy. It makes Batman so tragic.
Yeah. I got some stuff to say. We're almost there, so I'm gonna get on that in a bit, because I do think that that's the peak of the, like, it really just gives you an insight so much on that character in a way that I don't think anyone's ever really kind of tested before. So later, Andrea and Arthur talk money over dinner while Bruce Wayne as Batman creepily watches from afar. He's just there in his suit with binoculars, just he's doing detective work. Arthur flirts with Andrea, who doesn't seem interested, and it seems Arthur went way back with Andrea's father. In a flashback, Bruce and Andrea are enjoying their budding relationship by visiting the World's Fair. Bruce makes it clear that whatever the future holds for him, he wants Andrea in it, and Andrea sets up a meeting so she can introduce Bruce to her dad. Bruce has a good first impression with Andrea's father, and they even meet a young Arthur Reeves, who is working as Beaumont's legal aid. As they continue their small talk, Sal Valestra, a man with mob ties, arrives to speak to Mr. Beaumont, and he's not taking no for an answer. As they leave, Bruce Wayne tries to explain his frustration he has over all the unpunished crime that goes on in the city. As he's talking about this, he witnesses a robbery and he can't let that slide. So with Andrea's blessing, he tries to take down the criminals, but is ultimately struck with a baseball bat, which incapacitates him. Later, Bruce works on prototype designs for his crime-fighting outfit, but seems upset by the idea that he could either commit himself to the vow he's made to his parents about avenging their deaths by fighting crime, or live a life with Andrea. He tearfully begs his parents for permission to live a full life and abandon the promise he made to them. In his mind, he never saw a timeline where he could be happy after their deaths, and yet he can see that future with Andrea, and Andrea comforts him at the grave, and they embrace. So yeah, this is the big movie. This is a big part of the movie, in my opinion. Kevin Conroy does a tremendous job. We just saw him do all the intimidating Batman stuff, and he really does find a way to bring emotion to these scenes. It's got to feel handicapped when you're not directly facing the person you're talking to, nor, maybe you're recording these scenes on different days, etc. But he really captured that desperation. And I've never seen it put that way. I've never seen it put that the promise was made because in his mind, he saw no further happiness in a life without his parents. And I think that speaks so much to grief and death in general, and how oftentimes I think we've all lost people. Everyone loses people, right? And it almost there's a part of you, at least with me, with some of the people who's been closest to me who have passed away, where I don't want to move on. I feel like moving on is disrespecting the fact that they're not here anymore. And you almost need that permission to both grieve, but also move forward. And I honestly do think that Bruce thought that he couldn't possibly see a world where he could ever be happy, so it's easy to sign his name on the contract of I will fight crime forever. Because if I'm never going to be happy, what does it all matter? And the temptation of this woman and the temptation of what that future could be with her is enough for him to realize that it can only be one or the other. And again, when making the choice mentally, he chooses Andrea. And that's huge when you consider how almost every other piece of Batman media looks at that promise and looks at that vow. That vow, seen in its entirety, gets us to Dark Knight Returns, right? This old, crazy, fucking mutant punching Batman. Yeah. And it's like, it's that road or this one. And I've never seen this one before. Even with Selena, right? The joke is that she always was like, you'll never quit this, so you're good. You don't have to, I'm not even going to tempt you with a relationship because you're never going to leave this crime fighting thing. That's your one true love. But it is like, no, it's not that at all. Like, it really, he never thought that this could happen. So this now on his lap really makes him reconsider this promise. And when you, like you said again, when the choice is even robbed from him, it makes him even more tragic, because then he's, Sisyphus. He's just rolling the ball, the rock uphill. It's never going to stop. It comes down every time. It's never going to stay up there. It's big stuff. I had never seen that explored this way. It's always been, he's cool in how almost tunnel vision he is. That's always been the depiction. Like, he's a badass because he's so focused on the mission. And it's like, well, yeah. And if you are like that all the time, you will never be happy. You'll never find love, because there'll always be a mission. There'll always be a war. There'll always be another criminal to put behind bars. And there's no life behind that. It's almost a critique or criticism of Batman in a Batman movie. So it's interesting that they would even go there. In present day, an elderly South Valestra lives in fear of being killed by the Batman like his fellow gangsters before him. And we see that Sal and Arthur know each other quite well, because Arthur is a scumbag. Bruce decides to interrogate Sal after putting pieces together, and is shocked to see a picture of Andrea's father with Sal. We get another flashback where Andrea tells Bruce that her and her father have to leave to Europe immediately, but her dad won't divulge the details. Sensing that the time is of the essence, Bruce proposes to Andrea, who says yes. I completely forgot about this. I completely forgot that he would, again, risk it all. Mrs. Wayne, like, we doing this. You staying here with me, you getting half the mansion, is what we gonna do.
That's right.
huge stuff for Batman. Huge stuff for Batman. So I thought that was absolutely crazy. Bruce begins construction on the Batcave, but is heartbroken when Alfred hands Bruce his engagement ring box with a letter from Andrea, who says that she's left with her dad and is too young for marriage. The last line in the letter is "Forget about me." Nah, come on, man. Especially to this guy.
Right.
Like he immediately just says, like, all right, you know what? Fuck these hoes. I'm done.
That's
He's
right.
in there very next scene, he's like,
Andrea who?
Batman.
Yeah.
I'm a bat now.
Yeah. Forever.
Although this is another scene where we got another hint that sometimes fate just isn't with you. Like the bat's coming out of the hole in the ground as he proposed.
Yeah.
That's just tragic. Like
that's how he found out about the Batcave. Yeah.
I loved when he put on the bat mask and Alfred's face is like,
unironically love that scene. The music, just the way Alfred sells it, because that tells me
I think he gasps.
He does. He's like, what the fuck?
Like his face is like, holy, this is the fear. This is the fear that you wanted to invoke. And it's that embracing of, okay, I can't settle down with a happy life. So I'm going to just, like you said a second ago, I'm now going to become this single point driven person to the point where I am the epitome of fear and just focus because I can't be happy. So I'm going to take care of business.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You go ahead. I've been talking too much, I think.
No. You're good. I was just going to say that the other part, I've always loved one of the trajectories in the Dark Knight trilogy is Alfred's trajectory just as much as Bruce's. And the gasp to me, man, I don't know how you invoke all this in a single, breathy moment, but the gasp to me is like, I've enabled this too far. Like the gasp to me is like, I've been saying, oh, if he wants to study jujitsu, then that's fine. And if he wants to occasionally stop a crime, then maybe that's okay. And if he's saying it makes him happy to, be a detective, then whatever. And then when he sees him in the suit, he's like, I can't stop him now. Like this is what this is gonna be like. This is what this is gonna be. And you got to believe, as somebody who in this very film voices that he wants him to be happy and step away from this, very similar to Michael Caine's Batman of like, come on, man, like how long are we gonna be doing this shit? I always like the idea that Alfred loves and enables Bruce, but doesn't necessarily think that this should be his life. While Bruce is at Sal's, Sal heads over to the abandoned World's Fair to meet with the clown prince of crime, Joker himself. He asks the criminal to help keep him safe from Batman, as Joker is the only one who can take him down. He offers Joker $5 million, and after some back and forth, Joker agrees to help. Arthur walks Andrea home, and when she goes inside, she is confronted by Bruce as Batman. That just made me laugh because that just felt more jealous boyfriend than vigilante. It's like she just leaves her date, and when she goes in, Bruce Wayne's in her house as Batman. And I love how kind of cold she plays it. Like she's not like, she's like, oh, this is what you do now. Like she kind of, she doesn't even flinch at the idea that he's Batman. She's coy with her answers about her father's connections to organized crime. And then Bruce Wayne leaves in a huff. But when he's gone, Andrea breaks into tears. Again, a bit nuanced for a child's cartoon.
As much as I loved this movie, just even before this watch for this show, I don't think I ever realized just how much Bruce and Andrea parallel. Like I didn't realize how much of two sides of the same coin that they were. Really, it's I guess I'll get more into it later. But you brought it up now, how she didn't flinch at him as Batman. Because
now that you're saying it, it's kind of obvious why she would.
She's like, why would she? She's doing the same thing for the same reasons, but she got absorbed by the darkness that he plays with and flirts with. But she fell in, and he did. Right. So I never noticed just how much. And even I hate to jump forward because we do it in a chronological way, but if you're listening to this, you saw the movie, right? So the final scene of the film, Andrea looks out. And the guy asks her, "Are you alone?" And she says, "I am." and she's got the shadow over her eyes, and she's looking out
Mm-hmm.
at the ocean, and then they fade over to Bruce, who's looking in her direction. He doesn't say
Mm-hmm.
anything, but he's got the shadow over the same. He's got the mask over his eyes. He's also alone.
Yeah.
It was fucking beautiful, but I just never noticed just how much that was parallel like that.
I literally didn't either. I did those dots just connected in my mind, so it goes to show you.
No,
And again,
I love when she throws in his face. You know, the only person who's still controlled by
oh yeah,
her parents is you, and even in that, like you realize, well, she's
Yep.
controlled by her parents,
Yep.
but like you said, she's completely given into the darkness. She's killing people. Batman still doesn't kill people. He just wants to control and limit crime. This woman is just like, no, I'm killing everybody who's got something
She's
to
vengeance pure, which is
yeah.
kind of the same story that I guess they were telling in the Batman, but Bruce actually does fall in for a little bit.
Yeah, it's ironic because you gotta believe she knows of the character of Batman. Like she, being anybody who knows anybody, Batman's in Gotham. He's never been accused, well, except for right now, accused of killing people. And your track record. So when you realize that your lover is that, can you really embrace him or that at that moment? Again, she's as tunnel visioned as he is. Like, even when she sees the love of her life after 10 years, knowing that they were fated to be together until all this mob stuff happened, she doesn't just like drop all of it. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to tell you what I've been. She's still laser focused on her shit, on her mission. She's,
and
she's a bit,
frames her dead father. Oh yeah, daddy's the one behind all
it was
this.
him.
It's him. It's not
and
me.
it's quick and quick too. That night, the Phantasm arrives at Valestra's house and finds the gangster already dead at Joker's hands. The house then explodes with the Phantasm barely escaping. Bruce pursues the killer and gets the Phantasm in his clutches, but is interrupted by the police, who believe that Batman is responsible for the murders. Law enforcement surround the building that they think he's in, and just when it looks like Batman is trapped and set to be apprehended by the GCPD, he tricks them with his cowl and evades them in an alley. Suddenly, he sees Andrea's car and jumps in, and they manage to get away. I liked the Joker Valestra reveal. I thought that was kind of cool. And there's something so weird, and I don't know if it's elsewhere. This is like primarily where I got a lot of my Batman information before I got into comics. But I love the weird respect Joker has for Batman in this universe. Like, it goes on to like the episode with the man who killed Batman, where he gives the eulogy and then basically tries to kill the guy he thinks killed Batman because you don't even deserve to, how dare you kind of stuff. Is this stuff here too? He's like, oh, it's Batman. It's Batman. Like, no, it's not fucking Batman. Like, I know Batman.
Yeah.
It's not Batman, but I'll take your money and then I'll kill you. And then, like, he still
I'll use your corpse as the trap.
Yeah.
I love it.
Crazy.
Bonkers stuff, and again, extremely grim for a child. What do you tell kids in that moment?
No, I mean, honestly, something that I didn't even realize until this rewatch was I always thought he owned that whole building. That's like an old folks apartment building. And my son, when the explosion goes off, my son is like, he just killed everybody in that building, and I'm like, oh my God.
he put the Breaking Bad. They blew up a hospital for one guy,
one dude. For one dude, and he didn't even get him.
No, bonkers. So at Wayne Manor, Alfred patches up Bruce while Andrea watches. When Andrea is asked again about her father and the mob, she recalls that her father conducted a meeting the same day that Bruce proposed. She overheard the mob threatening to shake down Mr. Beaumont, who begged for an extension on getting them the money they were asking for. Sal agrees to a 24-hour extension, saying if they don't have the money, he will have Mr. Beaumont's heart. So Mr. Beaumont decides that he and his daughter have to leave right now, or they will be in incredible danger. Andrea pleads to stay and tells her father that Bruce proposed, but it doesn't change her dad's mind. He confesses that he took the mob's money in hopes of providing a better future for Andrea. From that night forward, they were on the run, hiding all over Europe before settling down. Carl eventually had enough money to pay the mob back, but the mob wanted to be repaid in blood. Andrea hints that her father might be the Phantasm, getting revenge for all this time on the lam. After Andrea blames herself for ruining Bruce's life, Bruce is like, nah, girl, come here. and they share a passionate kiss and a passionate night.
And Alfred
together.
again stumbles in. I'm like,
Yeah, he's like,
again.
what? He's like, what's going on, man?
Was the mansion always oceanside?
Yes.
I was like, wow, I don't remember they had an ocean.
It's just so big that he experiences all 4 seasons somewhere different. It's that big. This is that big of a building back in the day. Yeah, because the next morning they're like by the balcony and everything's beautiful and
at this point they cannot hide the fact that they're hooking up because she's wearing the button down shirt. She's got no pants on. She's got no pants on. It's just like, oh, yo, Batman got busy.
Yeah,
she had no pants on. That was crazy. I was like, no pants at all. Nice, but also pushing the limit. Another censor would have been like, color those in. Color those in right now.
That's right. Put some sweatpants on her.
The next morning, the two of them consider making it work this time, and later Andrea heads off after a quick kiss with Bruce. Alfred questions if Andrea will interfere with his Batmaning, and Bruce confesses that he indeed loves her, and maybe after all this dies down, they could be together without Batman. Again, huge moment. Says the L word. I was like, oh, wow, all right. I mean, he did propose, but I've never heard Bruce Wayne be like, I love her.
I love how even in the scene, they constantly play with the light and the dark. Because he's outside with her. He kisses her goodbye. He's all delightful. I love you and I'll see you later. But then the moment he walks back into the mansion, his shoulders drop, his head drops, and he's just like, can I do this? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? He's still going back and forth with these emotions and just the way even the scenery matches his emotions. It's beautifully done. It's beautifully done.
Yeah, and he's drawn, like you said, in those moments, it kind of shows you how love can kind of lift you up and kind of, perk you up and all that, and how much the weight of his promise and vow slumps his shoulders and has him in the darkness. It's completely well done. And again, all of this, in a lesser show, all of this would have to be said outright. But they save time by just drawing it, by just showing you visually how the person feels, which again, just incredibly efficient. So Bruce goes over the photos he's been investigating about the Beaumonts and the mob and notices a man who resembles the Joker in the background of one of these photos. He just takes out a pen and it's like, son of a
yeah, right. I can't escape this bastard.
I was like, and I kept looking. I was like, are they trying to say that? Yeah.
It's kind of crazy that when I don't know if I remember when I first watched it, but I guess the first time I watched it with adult eyes, which I don't even know when that was, I remember being surprised that the Joker was even in this movie because it doesn't feel like the kind of story where he fits in. And we had gotten so far into it without him. And it's like it kind of feels like a holy shit moment when you realize that he's actually, like, we talked about the moment already in the last before the old man got blown up, but when he actually comes out, they even give him like a little theme when he walks out of the shadows. It's sick.
He's so big that you think he would be on the poster, you think he would be on the promotional material, all that kind of stuff there, but it's not about him. But when you pull up such a big wig like that, it really is like, oh, whoa, he's in this too? And how is he going to factor into all this? And then when you consider that this is kind of a offshoot of the Burton world, that in that universe, Joker was a gangster. And he, hung out with other gangsters and he knows them. So when he talks about them, hey, Carl and whatever, and Sal and the guys, my mind carries the lore over from there, and puts it in here, and it just works. It's one for one. You guys want to gush about Mark Hamill for a little?
Oh heck yeah, man! Is this something? It's so weird hearing like he's got such vigor, like he's so young and doing this movie. It's so good.
No, this was the documentary for this was one of those. I don't know if you remember HBO used to do these short little 20-minute making of for movies. And they did one for Mask of the Phantasm that I got to see when I was little. And that's where I discovered that Mark Hamill was the Joker. And my little like 12, 13-year-old mind was just like, Luke Skywalker's the Joker? And like, this is crazy. And hearing him do, like, because they show recordings of him on a microphone and doing, and I'm just like, how is he doing this? And even when he talks about doing the character, he's just like, he has so many teeth and he does like the giant smile
Yeah.
himself. It's so great. And to see like how great of of an actor and a persona do you have to be that you could be synonymous with two characters? You know, not a lot of actors have pulled that off in their careers. You know,
Right.
you think of Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. You think of the Joker, you think of Mark Hamill's voice as the Joker, but you don't even think of his face. You just think of the voice. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's huge, and I think I saw a bit of the same thing that you had saw, because I saw something along the lines where he was like, or maybe it was about the Batman the animated series in general, where he says that he would always like he would like get almost caught up in it, and sometimes go over the top, and then he'd ask Andrea Romano, who also should get a ton of credit. She was the casting director for this entire universe. He'd be like, "Is that too over the top?" And she's like, "You're the Joker." It's like, yeah, go
it.
bigger. Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you think you're pushing out of the envelope, go farther. It's the Joker. It's what you're supposed to do.
And in this, especially in several moments of this, he's doing like 100 one-liners a minute. He's talking to himself in a lot of ways. He's not waiting for answers or trying to, he's just shooting off, and his personality just shines through. And then in moments where he wants to be devious, all he has to do is drop it an octave. And all of a sudden his eyes arch and he looks at the gangsters, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is not going to be good. It's that voice portrayal lends itself to the cartoonish world of this. And then whenever he wants to make it serious, you realize how serious everything else is going on around it. It's hard to do, but he manages to do it. So boom, 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 boom. Joker. Speaking of Joker, he stops by Arthur Reeves' office and accuses him of being the Phantasm after convincing him it's not Batman. The two are interrupted when Andrea calls Arthur, which further convinces Joker that Arthur is behind this somehow. Later that night, Arthur's just brought to the emergency room after being dosed with Joker toxin. Batman visits to try to get info, and at first it seems like Arthur's too far gone, but he collects himself and tells Batman that he helped Carl and Andrea Beaumont skip town. They last spoke years ago when Arthur asked for financial help during his first election campaign. Carl told him no, so Arthur sold his location to the mob in exchange for payment. This is like the bottom basement snitch, dropping dimes kind of stuff, right? Like, This is low. This is low shit here. Carl gave him his first job, or his first real job out of college. That's right. Working for the Beaumonts, and the second he could drop a dime for some money, he does. It's crazy.
He gets what it deserves. I love in that scene where Joker shows up in his office, the silhouette of the Joker in the office door, and he just rolls in. And he just gets right in his face because he knows something's going on. He's smarter than the situation. And I love even when Andrea Beaumont calls and he just gets animated doing all these goofy things like, answer the phone or hang up now. And then, like you said, he just drops that octave and it's just like, oh, I see what's going on here. And it's over. Something's going on. And to then see him just laughing hysterically, which is pretty much going to be his death is imminent at this point. And he has to admit, oh, I'm this douchebag of a person that, I led to the death of this girl that I supposedly am interested in, the death of her father, all for money and a little bit of a title, be a councilman. Like, you got what you deserve there, buddy.
And we saw that, and it possibly wasn't going to go for him anyway, because he still had ties to the mob. He still was talking to Sal. He was still talking to a lot of these guys, and he thought he was going to ride that all the way to the top, and no, did not work out for him. So Batman then heads over to Andrea's home and picks up her ringing phone. I'm like, why'd you do that, bro? But Joker's on the other line, and he sends over a drone with a bomb attached to it. He's ahead of his time. And to take Batman out, but Bruce survives. We flash back one more time to Andrea in Europe, coming home to find her father murdered at the hands of Sal and his men. I think they do like a Godfather oranges on the ground thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, yep, it's a mob movie. Um, Inside his hideout at the abandoned World's Fair, the Joker is confronted by Andrea as the Phantasm, and just like her, he's nonplussed. He's like, "Yeah, you're a chick. Like I know you're a chick, so yeah."
You finally figured it. You finally figured. I like the fact that she didn't even play like try to be like, no, I am not Andrea. He just immediately. It's like the Scooby Doo moment. Like, oh, you figured it out. It's right. You darn kids and your dog too. You figured it out. Like you. Come on. Why do you just give up the ghost like that so quickly?
Did you see? Did you see how much effort WB had gone through to try to hide the identity of the Phantasm? So they actually
like body stuff.
They hired the voice of her father to do the action figure voice and everything too, right? And then right before the movie comes out, they end up spoiling it for everybody by releasing the toy with her and the mask, the Phantasm mask, because unmasking action figures were so cool back then.
Yeah, the Power Ranger head that flips up and they have the helmet.
I'm so happy I was too poor to afford toys. Right? I didn't experience this. I didn't experience this at all.
Yeah.
I remember growing up as a kid, going to Toys R Us and not being allowed to go inside.
Yeah. Don't even look over there.
Don't even look over there. You're not even coming in. I'm here to buy a present for your cousin because we have to. You stay in the car and the car is not running. We'll be back in a half hour. Don't die.
I get real flashbacks to the line in Pulp Fiction, because she's been going around doing the whole I am the angel of death. It's like that's just some cold shit you say right before you kill somebody. Like it has no real, like she was like practicing it in the mirror, like Huntress and Birds of Prey, like cool shit she could say. And like never stabs anybody with the hook. It's just a prop. Just a nice little intimidation.
Joker quickly melts it.
Yeah, like I said, he's so nonplussed about any of this. So they fight. Andrea appears to have the upper hand until Joker escapes and lures her into the path of a gigantic aircraft engine, which sucks her off her feet and nearly kills her until Batman arrives in the Batcycle and crashes it into the engine's rotors. He destroys it, much to Joker's annoyance, and then Batman asks Andrea, "But Andy, what will vengeance solve?" Bum, bum, bum. Of all people, bro. Of all people. Look in the mirror, Bruce.
Right.
Look in the mirror, man.
And she says something like that again to him. Like, oh, you of all people should know. And he's just like, I'm not murdering people. I put them in jail.
Yeah. and now, again, like very similarly to, another great Batman piece of media, whether it's Long Halloween or Dark Knight Returns, it's like Joker's in the middle of watching somebody corrupt themselves and Batman trying to pull them away, and it's all just a show to him. It's all just like, I know this city is screwed and it will ruin people, and she's an example of that. She's proof positive of it, and you can't convince her. In his mind, he's like, it's Batman. Let's watch Batman try to convince this cold-blooded murderer to stop being a cold-blooded murderer. It's not going to work because the Joker knows that it's all chaos all the time. Really, really interesting stuff. Batman confronts Andrea. He now knows that her father is dead and that she's been killing his tormentors one by one for revenge. She actually arrived in Gotham earlier to kill Chucky Saul and used her late father as a scapegoat if necessary. Andrea says she has nothing left except for her revenge on the men who ruined her lives. Batman pleads with her to leave and let him apprehend Joker his way. Elsewhere, Joker starts a countdown to blow up the entire complex. Batman's pursuit of the Joker takes him through the old exhibitions, and Joker distracts him with a set of booby traps long enough to don a jetpack and fly into the sky. Very, very Joker-ish. Batman manages to jump on his back and yank him off course, causing them both to crash. And I don't know if that's a Boba Fett thing. Crash and leave them exhausted, when Batman even admitting he's willing to risk dying with the Joker if it means stopping him from escaping. Another big moment. Then Andrea reappears and grabs hold of the Joker. Batman pleads with her to run as the fairground is wired to explode, but she refuses and bids him goodbye. The bomb explodes and the entire complex begins to burn. The Joker laughs maniacally as Andrea disappears with him in a cloud of smoke. The ground underneath Batman collapses and he falls into a sewer line which carries him away from the Inferno. That Joker laugh thing sticks in my brain. Like that image of him just completely having the time of his life and the fires in the background. Like when they think of like what some men want to watch the world burn, like that's the image and that's the voice that I hear when they say stuff like that. It just really, really well done.
No, I mean exactly. Like I laughed myself out loud to that, and even my son looks over to me. He starts laughing because it's such a Joker moment. Everything's burning around him. He himself, even though in the previous scene was like, "Hey, Batman, if you don't let me operate this jetpack properly, we're both gonna die." They crash, and he's still like, "You know what? We're all gonna die at this point." And you can tell, like, even in that moment, I wonder, does Joker know who Batman is? Because he's sitting there going, "Okay, Andrea Beaumont, he knows the connection that she has to Batman. He's hearing this conversation, but he just doesn't care." He just doesn't care. He's just like, I'm watching this relationship just fall apart. I know who this is. I don't need to say I know who it is because I'm enjoying it. And on top of that, everything's exploding. Yes. And he knows at the same time, I'm somehow going to survive all this.
Somehow. But you just made me think for a second. Nothing comes of him knowing the mobsters, right? Like Bruce makes that connection, but nothing comes of it. Nothing.
No.
It's not like he set the mobsters to the Beaumonts or that he set, the Beaumonts up with the mobsters or anything like that. He just was in the room. He was just around.
That's what I'm saying. It's
interesting. Red herring, green-haired red herring. But in the Batcave, Bruce is heartbroken over the fact that he was unable to save Andrea. Sadly, Alfred tells him that Andrea was beyond redemption. Which is what you gotta say when your boy breaks up with somebody.
You don't need that, Bruce.
That's right, she was crazy, Bruce. She was
man,
crazy,
wasn't you, bro. Man. You're perfect, man. You are perfect.
She gave it up on the lawn, Bruce. On the lawn.
Yo, she talks to her mother, and her mother's dead.
Yeah, her mother's dead. I just love the accent. Then Bruce notices a glint in the distance and finds a locket that belonged to Andrea wedged in a nook in the cave wall. Inside is a picture of her and Bruce. Desolate, Bruce realizes that she must still be alive, but is once again lost to him, now and forever. On a cruise ship out at sea, one of the passengers notices Andrea standing alone at the rail. He starts to introduce himself, but notices her rather cold greeting and a mourning veil. She wishes to be left alone. Bruce Wayne stands on a rooftop overlooking the city as he's done countless times before, and whether, as Yogi put it, whether it's by fate or by design, it seems he cannot escape his purpose. Seeing the bat signal light up in the sky again, he swings off into the night.
So good.
Tragic Shakespearean. It's all that and more.
Now hit that 90s power ballad. Boom.
By Tia Carrere. Let's go.
I was quite surprised at how well this still held up. I wonder if it's one of those things where if you watch it as a child, you can still find tremendous enjoyment of it, but you're not getting the embezzling money stuff. You're not getting, right? Like there is a little bit of heightened writing here with some of this stuff. And what a careful hand to be able to play in both of those universes. Have something that could be on WB Kids or whatever the heck, but is tackling this kind of stuff. What do you guys think upon rewatch about its rewatchability?
No, it's timeless. This is just as rewatchable as any of the Nolan Batmans, as much as the Burton Batmans. Sorry, Schumacher, I'm not going to put you in there. There's a reason why even on Rotten Tomatoes to this day, this is ranked up there with the other Batmans. It's 82%. Like that's crazy. That's crazy high for something this old, and it still holds up. Like after watching it again for the first time in a few years, I just want to watch it again. Like this. Hey, let's make it a Christmas movie, right?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I mean, this is just as a Christmas movie as anything. Literally dropped on Christmas. Come on, man.
I
Let's
think
go.
there's one mention of Christmas in this movie. You can find it. You'll be able to technically call it a Christmas movie.
That's yeah, yeah, right. Does anyone wear a Santa hat anywhere in this weird ass town where everyone's rocking fedoras all time of the year? It's bonkers. Yogi, anything you got from your rewatch? How you feeling? Like you said, it just it just validated you, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it does it every time. It's just like on this rewatch, like I noticed earlier the parallels and just how freaking good it is, how good it'll always be, and how I might not want to throw away my Blu-ray just because of the 4K because uh
Yeah.
everything isn't meant to be upscaled all the way.
Right, right. No, I get it. Yeah, I truly enjoyed this. This is one of the heights of DC media, especially like I said, in a time before the big push to putting this stuff in theaters, putting comic book stuff in theaters.
It's
There's
the
a
only
common.
I was gonna say it's the only superhero anime. It's the only animated superhero film to be nominated for best animated film Annie award, which is the
Oh
same as
wow,
like it's like the animation Oscars, but
yeah.
they didn't win. Unfortunately, they lost to the Lion King. But
What to what movie?
the
What was
What's
Lion
that?
that?
King.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's that guy in Florida. He has like a thing of lions that he has like his own personal zoo of lions.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
It
yeah,
Netflix
has
exactly.
a
Matthew
Netflix
Broderick, the dude
show.
who ran over that chick.
Matthew
Got
Broderick killed a
over it.
person.
He
Everybody,
did. He did kill a
I want that
person.
known. He did. He totally did.
Every time you
Um,
mention Matthew Broderick, you should mention that he killed a person. It's
yeah,
just
Ferris Ferris Bueller killed somebody.
he did.
vehicular manslaughter. He didn't even
Ooh,
kill him with bare
man,
hands like a
like a real
he
man.
killed him like a coward. Anyway, um, yeah, I hope that the lesson from people going back and watching this is shows that you can marry simplicity and depth. You can marry adult themes in animation. You can have Batman have some kind of silly and funny moments, and then also some really grave ones. But you should really be trying to explore the man behind the suit. It's really easy to just put the guy up there, do some gadgets, and have him fight crime that way. The depth that they showed in this is something that I hope carries forward. This is the height, like I said again, in a lot of ways of what DC is capable of doing. Next week, Yogi will be joining us again to cover what is the
Jesus.
end of a shared universe of DC. Aquaman 2 we'll be covering next week, the final film of the
Can't believe it's
DCEU.
out. I didn't know it was coming out already.
Yeah, it'll
You
be
wouldn't
out in
know.
2 days.
You
Yeah,
would not. You would not know.
I heard they purposely did not do a red carpet premiere for this film. They did a very quiet, familiar
They
for
had
friends
it
and family,
played
actors.
in the back of a van in the
That's what it
backyard.
was. That's what,
No,
it was a Zoom meeting.
no,
They sent the link
they
to everybody in a Zoom meeting and just played.
Click it.
they did the premiere at a cemetery.
There you go, man. Oh boy.
Batman right now is visiting his parents, going, "What the hell is that movie in the background? What is that movie?"
Yeah, right. But to be fair, that's what we do tackle on here as part of the Major Issues podcast. The latest and greatest, and sometimes the latest is not so great. But I can't believe it. We're closing in on the end of this year. We're going to be finishing up with Aquaman, and then we'll be doing some predictions, the best and worst of this year. Really a year in review. It's been bonkers this year in general, between what's been coming out, what's been announced to come out, what's not coming out anymore, and all that stuff. But if you want to follow the adventures of all that stuff, make sure that you're listening to the Major Issues podcast. It's the official podcast of Comic Book Clique, and it's available at comicbookclique.com. But if you don't want to go to our official website, and why wouldn't you? I mean, it's super cool.
Why wouldn't you?
That's what I'm saying. Why wouldn't you? Let's say these people already have podcast apps that they already listening to their podcasts on, their true crime, their Joe Rogan, all of that. We're available wherever podcasts are found. Any podcast app, Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, the Apple Podcast app, TuneFind, YouTube, Spotify, and more. We just, I just put the podcast through a bunch of other podcast directories, so our reach should be even bigger now. And yeah, Go to comicbookclique.com to get every bit of the Major Issues podcast. Over 300 episodes. It's over 600 hours of content at minimum. Us talking about the latest and greatest things to come to comic book and comic book media. It's a lot of stuff. It's been a lot of fun, and we're not stopping anytime soon. So make sure that you are reaching out to us all over social media, facebook.com/comicbookclique, Instagram at comicbookclique, or you can use the hashtag comicbookclique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. If you go to comicbookclique.com, you can hit that shop CBC link and purchase late, possibly when this comes out, Christmas present designed by me as part of Comic Book Clique. We get a kickback of every purchase made, so consider buying a piece of merch. Not only is it unique, but you end up helping us out here. You could also hit our patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month, change in your couch. You can help us keep our lights on here and afford the hardware and the software that we need to keep providing you guys content free of charge. We're upping the content in 2024. We have a new video series that will be coming out, hopefully by the time the next episode of this podcast comes out, with myself and Mr. B. Roke. I'm super excited for that to drop. It's in the editing bay currently. But yeah, we're always cooking up stuff here. So support us when you can, how you can, whether it's through Patreon, whether it's through buying merch, or lastly, rating and reviewing us on iTunes. It's the quickest way for us to grow as podcasters and find out what you like and what you don't. Because I've been to the future where we do become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media, but I can't tell you how we do it because it will mess up the timeline. And next thing you know, $7 Productions is going to do their Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and that means that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's playing Batman, and nobody wants any of that. So make sure that you guys are following the bandwagon before the bandwagon becomes full. But I've already told you guys where you can find me and B. Roke. Yogi, where can the people find you?
I operate a social media hub situation called DirtSheet Radio. You can find me on social media, every freaking platform: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Just search DirtSheet Radio. You will find our podcast, flagship podcast, which I'm on my way to record right now.
Oh my God.
And yeah. And you can also catch us on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and some Sundays with our post-show rewinds immediately after every major professional wrestling event on television or pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are killing it over there. You guys are expanding as well. It's been beautiful to see all the work that's been coming out there. But yeah, man, tell a friend about Comic Book Clique. Tell a friend about DirtSheet Radio. There'll be a Linktree link for all DirtSheet Radio's links in the description of this podcast. So go ahead and give them a follow. And yeah, I'm loving everything that happens. I mean, you guys have been fighting upstream for a long time. If there's one thing you guys are, is fightful, I'd say. But but that's all I got for this episode of the Major Issues podcast. My name is George Serrano, aka the Don.
It's John Escudero, aka Yogi.
And I am Alex Garcia, aka B Roke, but will always be the boo-boo to your Yogi.
There you go. And this has been our Batman Mask of the Phantasm 30th anniversary recap and review. And remember, whether you're a Dark Knight or an Angel of Death, a Clown Prince of Crime, or just want to leave it all behind for love, remember that we are the Clique. Remember, it's Merry Clickmas, and always remember that you, yes, you, are worthy.